Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program and the Interplanetary Chase. In the previous episode we have successfully landed on Mimbus and delivered some data to the Kerbal Orbital Laboratory for processing. We did also take some science home with us, and as you can see we did just spend a little bit from our nice big total of 321, taking us down to 161. And as it stands, obviously, we're just having a look to see what we may be able to research and how we can progress our space program. Having a look at precision engineering, obviously you get some antennas, some structural pieces, some smaller decouplers, even some external experiments there, which I'm still yet to determine how to use. But alas, we will. I don't think we will be getting this one today, as we're having a look at possibly scanning technology, but we do not have enough science for that. Would be cool though, getting the Sentinel infrared telescope and surface scanning module along with some planetary scanning equipment like the survey scanner, as you can see there, and also some more science experiments by the looks of things, and that would be very helpful. Once again, we unfortunately cannot afford this just yet, so what we're going to do today, ladies and gents, is first of all, routine mission. We need to refuel the orbital lab, as we've made it very clear throughout the last two episodes that it has very quickly run out of RCS fuel, and we need to go ahead and fill up those tanks. So here we are, obviously the vehicle assembly building, just trying to build a vehicle of some description that will be able to rendezvous with the station, fill it up with RCS fuel, and then return home in one piece. Now, obviously, the main body of this vessel, as you can see, does comprise of RCS tanks, and we have some LFO tanks on the sides, just to ensure that we do have enough fuel to actually manoeuvre with our tiny little engine down there. Communotron, just to ensure that we can maintain connection to the Space Centre. And it looks like we are missing a parachute, so we'll also need to go ahead and add a decoupler along with a heat shield. However, I almost forgot about that, as you can see, just looking for one now. Put that up slightly, and obviously put the decoupler back where it should be, and that is fantastic. Sort our staging out, add some parachutes, just to ensure that we can make it back in one piece. As you can see, this is a manned mission. And we're putting some struts in the Kerbals inventory there, just so we can reattempt our strutting kind of mission that we didn't do last time, after I couldn't figure out how to make it work. Not a problem. Right, putting the whole payload into a fairing here, as you can see. Clamshell ejection, and turn up the ejection force. Solar panels, make sure we do have enough electric charge in order for us to use our reaction wheels. Nice big fuel tanks here, as we are building our ascender stage now. And skipper engine on the bottom there with a boat sail. I'm not convinced that will give us adequate thrust to weight, however we will have to wait and see. And it looks like, obviously we do have to cut off the fuel flow from the top thing because it's not attached, so we're going to attach that to the fuel tanks on the sides. Speaking of fuel tanks on the sides here, we're going to add some decouplers and some solid rocket boosters. These ones might be a little bit overkill, so we're going to use these ones instead. And as you can see, those look rather quite fitting. They're a little bit far out owing to the decouplers, however these ones are very, very strong. So we shouldn't have any problems with the decoupled boosters hitting our rocket there as we strap them up. Add some fins. So far so good. Just correcting our staging once again. As we call this the KOL RCS Refueler Mark 1A. It's our first iteration. I'm going to add some, as you can see, some launch stabilizers on the side there. Make sure that I think Kerbal McKerbal should fly this one, as he does need some more experience. And simulated the vessel. We did have one or two failures, so we need to attach some solid rocket boosters, some Separatrons to the SRBs on the side there. Add some more of the SRBs to allow us to ascend quicker and further up as well. And obviously strap those up once again. And we're going to have a look at some other engine options, I think. Although ultimately it does look like the skipper is the best, and as it stands, possibly our only option without obviously fiddling with the engine plates here. And obviously it looks like we can put possibly 2 skippers in the engine plate, so we're going to give that a try in their compact form. As you can see, so far so good. Once again, put the launch clamps back on, make sure our staging's all good. And we are obviously doing some further modifications here, just making sure that the actual vehicle itself has enough thrust, because the puff engine had nowhere near enough. So we're going to put some pugs here perhaps. Don't think that's going to work, so we'll have to make that 3 engines. And as you can see, that fits, and it looks rather quite nice, if I may say so myself. Going to position that correctly. Going to strut up the payloads, make sure it doesn't wobble. One last check of staging, and we're ready to go. So obviously launching now when the station is about to pass over us to ensure a relatively smooth rendezvous. Very nice ascent, as you can see, with the mat cones, which is a new mod we've installed. A couple of the boosters. As we are ascending very, very quickly owing to our amazing thrust to weight from these 2 massive engines pushing us upwards here. Looks like our apoapsis is that of the station at 100 kilometers. Going to push our apoapsis slightly upwards in order to allow us to catch the station here, because it does look like our closest encounter is when it's going to be ahead of us. As we begin our circularization burn here. Run out of fuel on that stage, so we're going to use the actual vehicle now. As you can see, the 3 engines lighting up, looking very, very nice. The station has just passed us. The eagle-eyed of you may be able to see it as we've set it as a target. Not now I've turned the HUD off, but still, as you can see, it is out in front of us. However, we will be able to make some corrections, obviously, once we've circularised in order to catch the station. Speaking of circularisation, we have just circularised our orbit. It's not fantastic. We do have a slightly lower periapsis in order to try and allow us to catch the station. Going to make a few orbital corrections here. As you can see, we're trying to bring our closest encounter, our intersect, slightly closer together, whilst maintaining a periapsis and apoapsis of above 70 kilometers in order to make sure that we don't actually fall back into the atmosphere, which would be the last thing we need. And as you can see, looks like we do have quite a nice intersect. So we go to time warp, and as you can see on the map now, we are very close to the station, 16 kilometers. Not too bad. So from here we can just use our main engines to close up the distance and our relative velocity as well. A little bit of time warp here just to ensure that we make it in good time. Let's kill our relative velocity here, 1.5 kilometers away. Very good. Just some minor corrections with our RCS thrusters here. We have plenty of fuel, so we don't need to worry about that. Here we go, 600 meters. The problem is, obviously, when you're in space, you have nothing to kind of compare your heading to other than your target. And even when you're in orbit, that's quite difficult. Or at least it is for me. Maybe it's just me and my kind of tendency to never do very efficient docking maneuvers. I can make docking work, which is more than could be said about some people who kind of watch this series, as I've been told on Discord, but you know, I suppose it's just one of those things. I'm not claiming to be very good at this game by any means, but I have been playing it for a very, very long time, let's say, so no worries. Now, as you can see, lining up on the docking port on the station here, setting it as a target. And as you can see, we're just floating into place. We're adjusting our pitch in order to allow us to translate closer onto a docking port. Set our own docking port as a control from here, so obviously we can see where we're going over the nav ball. Slide maneuver, translation, and magnets have kicked in, and that is a successful dock. So we're going to time warp to sunrise. We're going to disable the engines quickly, just in case we press the wrong button, because obviously that would result in the whole station being deorbited. And from here you get to see me fiddle around in attempts to make a refuel work. I've had this problem previously where I can never seem to get kind of a resource from one thing to another without also refueling the tanks on the refuel vehicle, so to speak. If you guys know how to fix that, please do let me know, because I'm desperate to know how to do it. But as you can see, owing to the sheer amount of RCS fuel we are carrying, we have actually managed to make it work. And from here, I'm desperately trying to get the struts to work. So obviously I could go ahead and do what we tried to do in the previous episodes. Might have been the episode before, but as you can see, we do have a strut in EVA. And that's one done. Now we just need to do another one, and that should be enough. Although I'm struggling to understand the user interface here, because I'm not going to lie, this is the first time I've actually managed to make it work. So I'm going to try this again. Looks like Lido is our Kerbal in the EVA. It would make sense, seeing as Lido is our resident engineer. So no worries there. Must apologise if you do know how this works, because I'm making a absolutely awful job of it, aren't I? So for some reason that strut placed there, so we need to pick that back up, attach that, and that is both struts in place. So now we just need to get Lido back into the pods, into the station bed yet, the laboratory. Once again, we're fully refueled with monoprop. Take a nice little photo there, screenshot, as we undock the refueling vessel. And it's time for Mr. McKerbal Face to go home, as we point the vessel retrograde station. That can point prograde, obviously, as it should be, to maintain adequate electric charge. Fire up those engines, burn retrograde, and that should be enough to deorbit ourselves. As you can see, our orbital altitude is decreasing now, so I believe we've done enough of a suicide burn to re-enter. Apparently I left a strut connector as debris. Not quite sure what's going on there. And I'm thinking, given that we still have quite a lot of RCS fuel on board, as well as some actual rocket fuel, there's no point us decoupling. We might as well just try and save the resource. And as you can see, it is a little bit of a rough descent, let's say. It is a little bit dizzying for Kerbal but Kerbal Face down there. However, we do make it back into the atmosphere in one piece, and we do fire off both parachutes without a hitch. And from here, we can do an EVA report, and we'll keep that data. Thank you very much. Lovely view as we descend down into the waters of Kerbin. Let the vessel tip, and we recover the vessel. Take home some science. Mr. McKerbal Face is ready for his next assignment, and he also has some ribbons from this mission, being the Splashdown ribbon, Dangerous EVA ribbon, G-Force 5 ribbon. We have the Kerbin docking ribbon, not many of our Kerbals have that, Fast Orbit ribbon, and 10% Solar Fuel Booster ribbon. Very nice. Now, slightly more ambitious vehicle now. We're building the DSP Mark 1, and I will give you a couple of moments to guess what that is, given what we've already achieved in our space program. We've obviously done some Kerbin orbital manoeuvres and some science. We've done some moon orbital and surface science, along with Mimbus orbital and surface science. So that kind of only leaves us with one kind of logical next step, doesn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, we are building our very first deep space probe. We're going to be building this vehicle with the intention of sending it into interplanetary space and returning it to Kerbin and get some science from the orbiter and the sun. And as you can see, we're just making sure this thing does have adequate charge. Little heat shields followed by a decoupler and a fuel tank with an engine on there to help us manoeuvre, obviously, and antennas. We need to remember that where this is a probe, we have no Kerbals controlling it, and we need to maintain connection at all time. High gain antennas, perhaps. See if we can make these work. I believe I do actually have that bug again from last time, where despite the fact that I have symmetry turned on for these antennas, they don't seem to be following it. I'm not sure what causes that. It might be possibly incompatibility with some of my mods, but I doubt that is the case. Reaction wheel, obviously, help us manoeuvre. And obviously, as you can see, we do only use one of the antennas in the end. High gain ones, at least. Just repositioning the vessel so we can obviously add possibly a fairing here, as you can see. And where the vessel is kind of in line with the fairing and the fairing doesn't have to puff out at all, let's say, I think this is actually going to be quite a nice looking rocket. And as you can see, fuel tank just kind of goes very flush into the vessel here. I'm going to add another fuel tank just to ensure we do have enough Delta V as per. Bobcat engines. And see if we can make these work. I'm thinking possibly an engine plate after what we did last time with the 3 Terrier engines, or are they Pug engines? I can't remember, but as you can see, we can put 2 of these together to essentially have 4 engine bells, but 2 engines overall, and I think that looks very, very nice. Now, decouplers for some liquid fuel boosters on the side here, and I'm actually going to attach the Poodle engines to this, possibly. It does look a little bit strange, so we might need to grab an adapter or possibly use different engines altogether. Skipper engines, perhaps. Don't think we can make these work, so we are going to add adapter, followed by some skippers at a slightly smaller scale. Move these upwards, obviously, so the bells are aligned. Symmetry, and make sure our staging is all good. Now we're going to have these tanks feed the inside tanks as well, so we're going to run out of fuel very, very quickly, but it's going to be the most efficient we can get it, especially considering the thrust what those Skipper's engines are actually going to be making as we make a few more modifications here, such as moving the antenna on my probe, the top one, because eagle-eyed of you may have seen that we did completely forget to put a parachute on here, which is a little bit counterintuitive. We're also going to put a slightly bigger heat shield just to ensure that the probe is okay, as it's quite a heavy return vehicle. And above that heat shield, we're just having a look to see if there's anywhere for us to store some experiments. And we do obviously find the experiment storage unit. We're going to move that into the vessel a little bit, atop the heat shield as well. Put a parachute on there, just to make sure that you know, if anything does happen to the vessel in re-entry, then hopefully that can make it back in one piece. Reattachment to couplers there. Looks a little bit weird, but it should still work. And obviously strutting up things just to make sure that it stays in one piece during the ascent. And we're ready to go. So again, the plan is, firstly, break through this thunderstorm as we fire off our boosters there. Plan is achieve Kerbin orbit. And we need to extend our orbit out and achieve Kerbin escape in the same trajectory of Kerbin's orbit around the Sun. From there, when we are orbiting the Sun and we're out of Kerbin's sphere of influence, we do our science, and we burn retrograde and hopefully end up back into a Kerbin capture, and from there it's just a matter of returning the probe in one piece. Not too complex, as long as you kind of know where to manoeuvre and when. And we'll see how this goes. I must say, these 2 Bobcat engines we have on the engine plate are extremely efficient. I'm not sure if that's because of the way that we've staged our liquid fuel boosters on the sides, but I don't know if you guys saw, when I decoupled those, the liquid fuel gauge in the bottom left there actually went up. There seems to be a bit of a visual bug as well, if you can see. There's like a shiny thing underneath our rocket somewhere. I'm not sure what causes that, but again, we are in orbit. It's not necessarily the most circular, however, that's, you know, it's not the point. We're not going to stay in a circular orbit, are we? So we burn towards our manoeuvre in order to, not burn towards our manoeuvre, but walk towards our manoeuvre to burn to outside of Kerbin's sphere of influence here. As we fire the booster, or boosters, better yet, and achieve Kerbin escape, which means we are leaving the Kerbal system, Kerbin system even. There you go. We're outside of Kerbin's sphere of influence, even with our ascent stage still, so we're slightly over-engineered, but that's fine. As you can see, we have lots of experiments to do with a hefty chunk of science. So, we're going to do the material study, worth 50 science, keep that. Temperature scan, 16, keep that. Atmospheric pressure scan and mystery goo observation, keep those as well. Collect all those into the experiment storage unit there. And from here, it's just a matter of going back to Kerbin. Now, there's two ways we could do this. We could either burn retrogrades, or we could burn radially to kind of intersect our orbits during Kerbin's next pass. However, that's going to take a very, very long time, so I think as inefficient as it is, we may as well just burn straight towards our target, being Kerbin. So obviously, we have a manoeuvre set up to achieve this. Warping towards us now. So we complete our burn with our very powerful engines here, I must say. And we do have a Kerbin encounter, as you can see. And pointing towards our target, firing our Bobcat engines just to ensure that we do catch our home planet. As you can see, so far so good, and we are back in Kerbin's sphere of influence. So from here, we just need to circularise again, make sure we don't get flung out of orbit owing to our altitude. It's not low, to say the least. Circularise, as you can see. Bit of an elliptical orbit, but from here we just need to return, right? Not too difficult, as we do actually get an intercept with the moon, accidentally. Set our periapsis to be quite low, roughly 25 kilometres. We don't need our booster stage anymore. Nice little screenshot of our probe. And from here, we just got to hang on tight. This may be a bit of an aggressive return profile, however, I'm going by the logic of we have a absolutely stonking heat shields and we don't have any Kerbals on board to worry about, so we're going to put that antenna away. And from here, the reflectron, the passive antenna is the only thing keeping us connected. Good thing too, because obviously we need to keep this thing pointing retrogrades to allow the heat shield to do its thing. It's already putting in some work, as you can see. Firefly coming in clutch here, making the game look absolutely beautiful. Once again, it's a very quick re-entry. Currently going at 2.5 kilometers per second, roughly. And we've come through the worst of the atmosphere. Now in the thicker parts, we've slowed down enough to the point where that's not going to be a concern. Release the parachutes. And from here, we just need to land. And we should be a-okay. 2,000 meters, 1,000 parachutes have deployed. Go to time warp until we're on the ground. Just having a look at our materials processing bay there. Cool device. And touchdown. Again, little screenshot. And return to the Space Centre with 142 science from this mission, taking us up to a total of 308. Very good. I'm going to warp to the next day, just to allow the KOL to do some more research. There is a little bit of a thunderstorm here, as you can see. No fuss though. And as you can see, the Kerbal Orbital Lab, if we have a look at the materials bay, not materials bay, the processing lab. As you can see, it's gone down to 5.5 science units per day. But that's because we are nearing completion. As you can see, there's 310 science out of the 500 that it can make. Might be worth us possibly delivering another scientist to see if we can accelerate this. Now, in the meantime, we're going back to the research centre, having a look to see what we can research. I'm just drooling at the experimental science there. However, we can afford scanning tech now, and I think that would be very, very useful. So we're going to research that. As you can see, a few more experiments, a couple of scanning devices, and with that, I would like to say thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.